Welcome to Burning the Boats.
All right, Javi, my brother, how you doing, man? How's it going?
Doing great, man. Doing great, man. Better now that I'm speaking with you.
I mean, you're making me blush. Dude, so I'm really excited. And for all the listeners who don't know, me and Javi go way back, like I think even elementary school. And for a while there, we kind of disconnected, but then we kind of reconnected in this whole entrepreneurial phase of our lives. And so I don't want to give away too much of the details, but go ahead and let the listeners know your background in terms of like where you came from and where you are now, so we can kind of get that full spectrum.
Man, okay, so where do I even start? I would say let's go ahead and start in undergrad. So undergrad, I've always been pretty studious. Studying my butt off ever since I could remember. But my intention was to go into medical school, to become a doctor. Mostly because that's what you're told to do when you're young. It's like, hey, doctor, lawyer, it's one of those professions. So I was going down that path, getting my bachelor's in biology, and towards the end, during my fourth year, I did I had a few volunteer opportunities. I got to shadow some physicians and quickly found out that it wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted. And I had conversations with them for, multiple reasons that I felt, this is not the person that because when you have experiences in life and you think that, okay, this is how it is, and I don't want to become that type of person. And it's just a bad experience, right? Like there's great physicians, great people in every profession. But the people that you interact with as you're growing up, especially, have a massive impact in how you think. And because of that, I ended up deciding, hey, I'm not going to go to medical school, but I still had a passion for helping people. And in my mind, the way you help people is, through their health at that time. Right now, I know that. Now I understand that there's so many different ways you can help people, so many different problems that you can solve for people, which is, I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more today. But at that time, I wanted to help people with their health. So I started searching for other avenues. One of my good friends told me, hey, you can go into nursing, you can become a PA. You can go into PT, and I'm like, well, I know what nursing and I know what a physician assistant does, but I've never really heard about physical therapy. So I thought that was interesting. I was, already into health and wellness, like going to the gym, really believed in the body's natural ability to heal itself through exercise and nutrition. So I was like, you know what, let me just go ahead and check this thing out. So I ended up going down that path, and I, volunteered at a hospital, at an outpatient center, and decided, you know what, I see myself being able to do this for the foreseeable future. So I ended up going that route. Got into PT school, went through my 3 years, got my doctorate in physical therapy, and back in August of 2017, I graduated, and I got licensed in October of 2017, and that's when I was, officially practicing as a physical therapist. So I'm not sure how much further you'd like me to go, but
No, that was great. And I mean, I'm gonna do a little slow clap for you, because doctorate at 2017, fully practicing. I mean, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. And one thing that just, stood out to me is that, like you said before, many people tend to be on a certain path where they feel like they need to do certain things, right? This happens a lot to business owners, especially when you're just starting out, where it's like, I need to have this type of business. I should be having X, Y, and Z, because they're comparing themselves to kind of everyone around them. And they also hear advice from, like you said, mentors. They should be following this specific path. But for you, you said something specific that stood out to me, which is you were on your way to becoming a doctor, and you said to yourself, this isn't the lifestyle that I want, right? So what was that lifestyle that you didn't want, and what triggered you to say, you know what, this isn't what I want to go a different direction? What really drove that?
Yes, that's a great question. So what I noticed at the time, and it's funny because it's what I'm driven by now, which is, family. And family is something that I keep close to my heart. And everything that I do now is to be able to spend more time with my family, my future family, the one that I'm currently building. So, with that said, when I was shadowing these physicians, one was just a total a-hole. So I was like, I do not want to become like this person. He was just not a nice guy to his patients, treating them like like a piece of meat, essentially. And I was like, that was a huge turnoff. But I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and shadow someone else. And the other person that I shadowed, really, really awesome person. But he told me, and he asked me, hey, why do you want to go into this profession? He's like, well, number one is I want to help people. And number two is I've noticed, obviously, because of the amount of money that you can make, it seems like you could be able to provide for your family more. And he basically told me that, yes, while the money is great, he actually did not spend as much time with his family as he thought he was going to be. So he was working, 60, 70, 80 hours a week at times, on call, always at the hospital, jumping from hospital to hospital. And he just said, if you want to have more of that time with your family, in the beginning, at least, it might not be the profession that you should go into. And he did say that, you'll sacrifice a lot in the beginning, and at some point you'll be able to, have that lifestyle, but there is a lot of sacrifice on the front end. And in my mind at that time, it was more than I was willing to give up. So with transitioning into physical therapy, I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to make as much money in that field, but I'll probably be working, 40 hours a week, and at least I'll have the rest of the weekend and after I get out of work to be able to just spend time with my family and live the American dream, buy a house, have kids,
have a dog, 2.5 children. It's all good.
Is the American dream, right? So
yeah, then you find out there's a lot more stipulations to that. So when you said that, like, okay, look, I want to spend more time with my family, right? Like, that was a significant decision you had to make. And I know for many people, when they're in their businesses and they're trying to make a decision, right? They're being told to go one direction, but then they realize that direction is going to lead them to a place they don't want to go. There's some kind of resistance to changing that, and you kind of end up going down this rabbit hole of doubt. Like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing the right thing? Then, other people might be saying that you're a little crazy for thinking about going in a different direction and things like that. Did you face that kind of pressure when you were changing your mind between, obviously not going the doctorate route and going more to the PT route?
Yeah. So at the time, I had no idea that I was going to go into business or, entrepreneurship. When I first, and looking back, it goes back to, because I was reflecting on this, and I have been for some time now, but looking back at it, my parents did have a business while I was growing up. It was a dry cleaning business, and they did really, really well for a short amount of time. The recession hit and everything tanked. They lost everything. So in my mind, subconsciously, I was like, well, I don't want to go into business and entrepreneurship because I can't be successful and have a great family life as well. Because my family, my parents ended up getting divorced, right? And I think one of the other reasons why I went into physical therapy without even knowing it was because of the security, right? You look it up, it's the top 10, high demand jobs in the country with a nice, decent salary and that security, right? In quotation marks. So right now we're starting to realize that security it's non-existent, right? There's no such thing. So I ended up going that route, and it wasn't until my third year of physical therapy school that I started to realize that a lot of the things that I was trying to avoid by going into physical therapy was actually something that people were still struggling with and dealing with on a daily basis. When it came to family, financial, feelings of burnout, overwhelm, being stuck in this broken system where they couldn't really help people the way they wanted to help people. And that's where I started to, again, question everything that I knew. And that's where that transition into, business and entrepreneurship started to come about, because I started to, ask questions. I started to ask questions, but a lot of the people that I had in my circle at that time either weren't aware of it, didn't have solutions. They just didn't know any better. And that, as a few examples, professors, my classmates, my CIs, so clinical instructors, while I was going through my internships while in PT school, if they're feeling this way and they don't know how to get out of it, then why would I ask them for a way out or a way to escape those feelings? Because they just didn't know either. So that's when I started to search for answers in other areas, started seeking mentors, started listening to podcasts and reading books. And that's where my beliefs about business started to shift.
Got it.
I had, because of my experiences, again, when I was growing up with my parents.
So there's been different situations in your life where you followed a path, but then you're like, wait, this doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense to me. And you start asking questions. What do you think drives that for you? Like, where does that, let me question this come from?
I think that's a great question. So I think the fact that there are people out there that are living, the life of their dreams and are really able to, not just for themselves, but really make an impact on the world itself and on millions of people, and realizing that, well, despite everything that I've been told, which is the things that I've been told have been from the people that I'm surrounded with which are my parents, my professors at the time, my classmates. There are people out there that are living more of the lifestyle that I would want to live, and they know something that I clearly don't. And if the things that I know right now have gotten me to the point where I'm at, then they must know something that's gotten them to the point where they're at. So that gets me questioning, okay, well, what else is out there that I don't currently know? And that's where you start looking for those people that are living the lifestyle that you want, yes, but also there's so many different areas when it comes to, right? You could follow someone because they've learned how to create incredible wealth for themselves and their family, right? So you can, get their mentorship on that realm. They might not have the best relationships perhaps with their family, right? So maybe you don't take that person's advice on that side. Maybe there's someone else that you really truly appreciate how they're able to have both. And that's what happened to me. I found a mentor that had the wealth and also had a great family life as well, which is, again, ties back to what I've always wanted. So that's why I started following him. That's why he became my coach. And that's basically what, has me questioning things. It's funny because I always think about the phrase, the truth will make you free. And freedom, I believe that, yes, we live in a free country, but are we truly free, right? And then there's talks of, attaining financial freedom and time freedom, right? And everyone has a different, perhaps, definition of what that means. But, you can go ahead, for those who want a clear definition, you can look it up. But, but essentially, if the truth will make you free and you haven't attained financial freedom, if you haven't attained time freedom, then you might not know the truth. So
some nuggets, man.
Yeah, if you think that way, then who has the truth? Well, the people who have attained that obviously know some truths that I might not know, and I'm going to go searching for them. Whether it's asking them directly, whether it's reading their books, listening to their podcasts, and just adopting a new way of thinking, because the level of thinking that's got you to where you're at right now is not going to get you to where you want to get to. Got
it. So, I love that you bring up the topic that, like, you're literally educating yourself, by finding the resources, right? Like, when I want to have a better family, who has an awesome family? Let's go find that person. I want to have a successful business. Well, who has one? Let's go find that person. You're trying to find these mentors. Now, has there been a situation where you followed a mentor that has ended up, like, you taking a back a step, or maybe was the best mentor? And do you have a set of criteria that you look for to filter and qualify your mentors?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I I was saying, there are I believe, mentors that you can have throughout your life for different areas, and there might be some that you just want, to learn a specific skill from, and that's it, right? And I believe it depends on what you're looking for, like you said, in terms of qualifying them. For example, one of my mentors, his name's Greg Todd. He's a physical therapist, has like 5 businesses now, online, brick and mortar practices, etc. And he was the one that I saw that had, the successful life in terms of business and entrepreneurship and the family. So I really, I actually got attracted to that more so because of the family that he was able to build, even with the business, right? So that was more of an emotional decision to actually reach out to him than anything. But now, looking at where I'm at now and what I've learned along the way, there are specific skills that I know that other people might be more experienced in detail. So perhaps, for example, let's say a guy like Russell Brunson, right? creator of ClickFunnels, is like he has specific skills that he's learned along the way that are very detailed to like, hey, I'm going to show you how to make some funnels.
Right.
And he's mastered that specific skill. So that's something that I know is going to get me the outcome, or a piece of what's going to get me the outcome to build a successful online business. Well, I'm going to learn those skills from him. Obviously for him, you know, I'm not sure how much he's charging a year now to be a part of his inner circle where you actually get to talk to him.
Yeah.
I'm not at that level yet, but there's still ways to get that without having to, you know, having to talk to him one-on-one all the time. There's different skills and knowledge you can gain from someone through different platforms as well. So I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure. Yeah,
I think what you really kind of hinted at was that it comes from like essentially like your why. And it sounds like a huge motivator. Your why is your family. And so you look at mentors in different areas that kind of correlate with your why. So, you know, they have a business, but they have strong connection to family, right? They are a fitness person, but they have a strong connection to family. They're whatever, they have a strong connection to family. And it sounds like your qualification system is based on essentially your values. Like, what do I really care about? Okay, my family, but I also want to achieve all these really cool, amazing things. So how can I achieve that? By still focusing on my family.
Yep.
That'd be right.
Beautifully said. Yes, exactly.
Boom. So, I mean, I think that's one huge takeaway that many business owners can go through, because a lot of the times, like, you know, you're sitting behind the laptop, you're trying to figure out, you know, how to write a sales page and whatever. But then like after a certain amount of time, you tend to lose track of why you even started in the first place. You start going down different rabbit holes in different ways, right? So, you know, going in that direction, were there any times where you felt completely lost in building your business?
Oh yeah.
do you still feel lost in building your business?
Yeah. Absolutely. There are days where again you have those doubts. You start questioning everything. It's like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I like following the right step? Why is it supposed to be happening faster? Is it supposed to, you know, be happening just at the speed of where it's at now? So there is, and I think that's why having that outsider's perspective and someone who's actually done something in the past, they can definitely, you know, speed up that learning curve, and you can definitely get those results a lot faster. But it's also nice to have someone tell you, hey, by the way, this took me 10 years to do, right? It might not take you as long, but you know, you're doing all the right things. It's just about consistency, and it's going to take a little bit of time to develop, right? You might make it big pretty quickly, but that's not the norm, right? Yeah. So having someone on the outside that's telling you, hey, listen, like this is what I did, and this is how you can speed up the process a little bit, but just know that it's okay if it doesn't happen like tomorrow. And I have this thing where I feel like I'm impatiently patient. So I understand that things take time, but I act as if they were going to happen tomorrow, or as if they should happen tomorrow. So I'm constantly, you know, doing the things that I feel like I need to be doing, as if tomorrow was a big day, knowing that it might take a little bit longer. But yes, to answer your question, 100%, you know, I feel like that on a day-to-day, and that's why I reach out to people and I just, you know, pick their brains, ask them questions to get a good idea of where I'm at and what I should be focusing on next. And that's why I believe it's so valuable to have people in your corner, whether they're mentors that, you know, friends that you just kind of, you know, pick their brains every now and then, or people you actually pay for to coach you throughout the process. I'm a huge believer in that. You know, you either work for someone to get their knowledge, or you pay them, right?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Because I mean, in the same boat, mentors have always changed the game for me. Every time I had a mentor, the results that I've been able to produce have been like, you know, I see 10x on your hat, so 10x, right? You know, shout out to Grant Cardone. But it's one of those things where whenever you find a mentor, like you said, the learning curve is just significantly shortened. But the thing about it too is that you also, like, even if you do hire a coach, and you can let me know if I'm on the right track here, but when you do hire a coach, it is going to cost you money, but that cost is probably going to be significantly less than what you'll spend trying to figure it out on your own.
Heck yeah.
Okay, so let's backtrack a bit and go back to kind of like where you're now a physical therapist. You know, you're working in a facility now, and you know you're starting to, you know what, I want to start doing an online business, right? Like how did that flow? I know you said you spoke to mentors and you listen to different podcasts, but what was that spark where you're like, you know what, I can become a physical therapist and do the physical therapist thing, but I know that me and my colleagues, we all have these questions and these doubts. We have no idea how to solve these. So I'm going to go ahead and ask questions. But what specifically triggered that action? So you know what, I'm going to take this online and start helping out other physical therapists.
Yeah, that's a great question. So to backtrack a little bit, shortly after graduating from physical therapy school, about 4 months into it, so that last year, that's when I found my mentor, my coach, and I took one of his programs, learned more about business and marketing because I had no idea about any of it before that. And shortly after, it was about, let's say, 9 months after I graduated, and 4 months into being a physical therapist, I started my own cash-based practice where I was seeing patients on the side. Still had a full-time job at the time, but I was seeing patients on the side. And I did that for several months before moving up to Tampa to partner up with a clinic and open up a third location with that clinic. So, you know, as I am now, it feels like a reset. Like I'm starting all over. Whenever this craziness stops, you know, we got to a good point. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Best ever, but it is what it is. So, you know, building up the clinic, I've obviously learned a lot about business and have been able to implement a lot of the stuff that I learned, you know, now crazy to think about, but now 2.5 years ago. And it's been a great experience. Now, the online business, I started it's been about a year and a half ago, where because of what I had done so early on in my career as a physical therapist with the cash-based business and then starting a private practice, I really wanted to, you know, help other healthcare professionals accelerate their career just like I was able to do. And that's where the online business came into play. And obviously seeing what my mentor had done online, I wanted to have that as well. And I think a lot of it too is like understanding that at some point you want to build multiple income streams, right? You don't want to just have one. And I think we're seeing why now, which, you know, a lot of people are now kind of diving into it a lot more and kind of like racing to try and figure this whole thing out. Luckily for you and I, we've, you know, been doing this for some time now where we might feel a little bit more comfortable. And that's a good thing for sure. But you know, it's great. And now, you know, there are talks about the internet shutting down. I had no idea about, but so that's, but again, it kind of brings back the point that, you know, you have to have those multiple income streams. And when it comes to online business, it's, you know, there are a few things that are different than a brick and mortar practice, for example, but for the most part, it's a lot about building relationships, finding out what problems need to be solved and then solving them. It's just through a different, you know, different platform, a different way of delivery. So I think what's pretty neat about online businesses is that the reach that you're able to have obviously goes from local to global, which is really neat. So a lot more people that you can help. What's also pretty cool is that for me personally, I love to travel. So just the idea of being able to travel, you know, all around the world, and still being able to have an online business and still be able to help people, you know, with their problems while I'm in Spain or while I'm, you know, in Thailand, wherever it may be, is also a really cool concept, right? So diving into more of the online space, you know, has really opened my eyes to what's possible. And I'm nowhere near to where I want to be, but I definitely know that I'm on the right path with that. So it's a really cool space. I think the hardest part as physical therapists, specifically, you know, healthcare professionals as well, is that we're so used to doing everything in person. We're so used to using our hands. We're so used to, I guess what we call like the implementation level. And for a lot of people, it's hard to separate themselves from what they do and how they help people. So it's just, again, like I said, a different way to deliver the same service and product. But a lot of people are so tied into their identity as healthcare professionals, in my case, physical therapists, where even the word itself is like physical, like you're physically helping someone. So how can you possibly do that online? Well, we found that there are many ways to be able to help people online, even in that realm, right? So it's, yeah.
So I love what you said, that like their identity, right? Like many physical therapists have an identity. And I think this relates to a lot of different business owners, especially now with this whole COVID-19. A lot of business owners have this identity that, you know, this is my business, this is who I am. But this is burning the boats. And burning the boats is all about figuring out what's going to take for you to, you know, commit and sacrifice to reach the next level. So if there's a physical therapist or some kind of healthcare professional listening to this episode right now, what advice would you give them so that way they can burn their boats and make that pivot? You know,
I think right now you have no choice. Boats are burned. We don't know for how long.
Trial by fire.
Right now you have, at this point in time, you know, with everything that's happening in the world, where today's April 1st. I was hoping that there'd be a huge announcement right now by the government that was like, April Fools!
Yeah. 2020, psych. Just kidding, guys. You're okay.
But it's not. So I think at this point we're kind of being forced to, you know, the boats are burned. So for someone that's having, you know, trouble making that transition, I think, you know, everyone does things for two reasons, you know, to either escape pain or gain pleasure. So the pain is there now, right? The pain is there. A lot of people are getting laid off, you know, obviously losing their jobs, going from full-time to part-time. That financial security that they once had is possibly non-existent or close to getting to that point. And again, we don't know where this thing is going to go, how long it's going to happen for. So at the point, the pain is now there. Now it's, instead of people can go into either panic mode or they can start preparing. And, you know, things might not happen for you in a week. They might not happen for you in 2 weeks or a month or 3 months or 6 months. But, you know, if you're constantly worried about all the bad things that are going to happen, that might never will, or things that might happen, then you're not going to move anywhere. You're not going to take action. You're going to be basically paralyzed. So the biggest thing is, you know, understanding, okay, this is where I'm at. What lessons am I going to learn from this? And what lessons can I take from this that are going to help me move forward? And actually start learning the things that I was avoiding learning this whole time, right? And now that you literally have your hands tied behind your back, you're going to be forced to start thinking, right? And thinking is a lost art. You know, people.
That's funny. I like that.
It's true, man. It's true.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it goes back to like, we're at this level of you know, we're implementers. It's. Oh man, I could go. I can go.
Go for it, man. Feel free. I'm sitting back. I'm just gonna let you roll with it, man.
But there's basically, and I learned this from a guy named Myron Golden. Not sure, do you know who Myron Golden is?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So he talks about the 4 levels of value, and there's, you know, the 4 levels, and basically level number 1 is implementation level. And in implementation level, you are basically capped out at a certain amount, right? Doesn't mean you're less valuable of a person. There's no person that's more valuable than someone else, but in the marketplace, it's what you're valued at, right? And that determines how much you're actually going to make. So at the implementation level, it's funny because most doctors, and I wish I could draw this out, but most, if you think about it, I did this for a training that I held one day. As you're going up the ladder, so there's the implementation level, there's a unification level, which is a managerial position where you bring people together, right? Where you typically get you make more than the implementers. Then there's so implementation, unification, communication, where you're able to have a message, right, that either moves the masses or a message that you can put out there to the world that people are attracted by, right? And the last one is vision. Vision, imagination, right? Which, if you think about imagination, it's what you think about, right? You're able to create images in your mind. You're able to create a vision that doesn't necessarily exist right now in reality, but people are able to do that, kind of like Walt Disney, right? He was able to do that before any of it was created, and it ended up coming out in reality, right? So those are the 4 levels of value. And you know, the more, it's interesting because when you're a kid, right, when you're growing up, we have all the imagination in the world, right? We think we can do anything. Anything is possible.
Yep.
And we have this imagination, and as we start going through traditional schooling, for whatever reason, we start being told that you can't do this, that you can't do that this is impossible, right? And it's funny, as you start going up, so let's say you're in, you know, pre-K, elementary school, all this imagination, like all these creative juices are flowing, everything is possible. As you start going up the ranks, you get to doctorate level, and you're actually at the lowest level of value, which is implementation, because you are the person doing the thing. You're the person that's helping someone one-on-one physically with their problems. And you know, I don't want to make this idea too abstract, but as an example, right? An implementer could potentially make anywhere from, let's say, $20,000 a year to like $80,000 a year as a physical therapist, right? When you get to the second level, unification, managerial position, it depends on what you're managing. If you're managing McDonald's, maybe you're making 40 to 50 grand a year, right? If you're the manager at Lockheed Martin, you're making probably $250,000 a year, right? So those are the different levels you go up. Now, when it comes to communication, you know, you can be someone who is a public speaker, an author, an artist, you know, actor, singer. You can be great at sales. So sales is communication. Marketing as well is a form of communication, copywriting, right? These are all going up the levels of value. And when you get to that point, you could potentially make millions of dollars, right? And when you get to visionary, right, the Imagineer, he uses this example of Apple, right? Who's the first person that we think of when we think of Apple, right? Steve Jobs, right? Right off the bat. Well, no one said Steve Wozniak, and Steve Wozniak was the person who actually created the computer, right? Created the software, but no one even you know knows who he is.
But it's the idea,
because he was the implementer. But Steve Jobs, the visionary, the person who actually saw what this thing could become, is the one that gets all the recognition, the one that's, you know, obviously extremely wealthy, has helped a ton of people. Because we all love having, you know, in our pockets. They've changed the game. So I think that's the biggest thing, is understanding that that's just the way the world works, the marketplace works. When it comes to business, when it comes to you know, having the identity of a physical therapist, you can actually get to that third and fourth level of value if you start having more time to think. And again, thinking is a lost art, because I feel like go
for it, man. Go for it.
the hip, what is it called? There's a great book, by the way. I'm not sure if you've read it or listened to it, but it's called Outwitting the Devil. And he talks about have you
I haven't read it, but it's on my reading list. It's on there. I have plenty of people recommend it to me.
It's so good. It's so good. But it basically talks about the hypnotic societal mechanism, which is basically what everything like in our world right now. It's actually happening now. It's happening all the time. But basically, it's he likes to talk about schools as government indoctrination camps, which are essentially places that you go to like get all your creative juices taken out of you, where you lose all your imagination, all your ability to think, because things are either right or wrong, they're black or white, and you're basically forced into not having a voice for yourself, right? Because if you speak out or say something that if you speak your truth, you go to detention or something else happens, right? So basically, it's under that thought that we're being put into this system that doesn't allow us to reach those two highest levels naturally. And that's where a lot of the self-education comes into play. But now that we have time to think, which is something that we should all value highly, because it can allow you to get to those two levels, now's the time. Now's the time to do it, because we have nothing else to do, right? You're stuck at home.
Absolutely.
You have to practice social distancing, tie your hands behind your back. That's been done. So now you have to think of other ways to serve the public.
And I love that we kind of went into that tangent, and for a second there we kind of went
no,
it's cool. I mean, for a second there we kind of went into a different kind of podcast, but to kind of reel it back in, I mean, it's a known fact that like the university and education system was built to create, you know, workers, you know, not necessarily thinkers, right? So, you know, to bring it back to like the business sense, it's kind of like the difference between, you know, someone working on their business versus in their business, right? So most people spend too much time working in their business where they're not thinking, right? They're just they're implementing, right? They see a strategy, now they got to implement it, right? But the implementation isn't the 10,000 or the $1 million idea, right? You have to take a step back, work on your business, and think about strategy. Think about what's going to happen 5-10 years from now. Think about your next big contract, your next big sale, your next big offer. Those are the things that are going to move your business forward, not necessarily, oh, I got to upload a blog post today, you know? So it's kind of like that trap that many business owners get stuck in, you know, and it sounds like for many people, especially now with this COVID-19, that it's kind of like, oh, wait, I need to change things up now. I'm spending too much time working in this business, but now that I can't go outside, I can't meet people, I can't, a big portion of a business, even my business, which is mostly online, probably about 90% online, significantly relies on meeting people face to face. It's all about online connections, but offline relationships type of thing. And so even then, it doesn't matter, even if you have a strictly 100% online business, you're still being affected by it. But like you said, now you're in a position where you're forced to think about, what can I do now to provide more value to the marketplace? How can I shift my offer? But then once we come out of it, like you said earlier, you have a better sense of freedom, right? You have freedom of time, freedom of lifestyle, you have multiple streams of income. But most importantly, you have a way to do your business in multiple different avenues.
Yes.
So I think that's the biggest takeaway that you've been mentioning throughout this entire interview is that, you have multiple options. You don't have to be stuck. You can actually figure it out. Just think a little bit,
Yeah. Just
so
just a little bit.
I love it, man. I love it. So one thing that I did want to ask you too, because I know it was kind of a question that was coming up as you were talking about your story was, and you mentioned it slightly, but it's like, you you got your PT facility and then you started the online and you kind of said to yourself, like, it's kind of like starting over. And does that come from a place that like, you're just not satisfied with where you're at right now? Do you think?
In terms of starting over with the online business?
Yeah. So it's kind of like you pretty much were a physical, a PT, right? Like that's it. Yeah. You could have followed that, but then you're like, oh wait, let me add this one extra element on top, right? Yeah. And so it's like, oh, it's like I'm starting all over again. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So with that starting over, what drives that? Hey, let me go ahead and add this another idea. Because it sounds like you're driven by something, but it's where I'm getting at is that most people feel like they may not be satisfied in what they're doing, so they strive for something more and more and more.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're in that same kind of group where you want to strive for more and more, or do you feel like at some point you're going to reach a level where you're satisfied?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, in terms of the physical therapy business, the brick and mortar practice, related to what's happening now, we got to a really good point. Obviously not so hot right now. And it definitely forces you to again, think and figure out, okay, what am I going to do differently? How am I going to serve people in a different way? When it comes to the online business, it's something that before I had this idea of what I wanted, my life to look like, and I had this idea of what of owning a private practice would do for me, and how that would be for me, obviously, and also the people that I was serving. Mm-hmm. But then I started to realize, well, this is still something that I have to build and create. So I did kind of divide my focus, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you're not able to put 100% focus into one thing, it's going to take a little bit longer to grow. But at the same time, for me personally, what I found is that I'm really passionate about what I do with healthcare professionals. And that actually drives me, and that passion fuels me to even do more with the brick and mortar practice. So there are, different theories behind that on what you should do. But that's definitely something where I feel like I've had definite satisfaction with where we've gotten. Would I like for it to happen a lot faster? Absolutely, I think we all do, right? But at the same time, now there's that other side that it's like, well, I would even feel, and it's funny we're talking about this because I did an exercise on a live stream yesterday called the Wheel of Life, and I did this 4 weeks ago, and 4 weeks ago for my career, I had put a 7. And so yesterday when I did this again, I put an 8. So it went one above, and most people were like, well, with all the craziness happening right now, well, how did that actually go up? And it's actually because I've been able to do more of what I really enjoy, which is the communication and coming up with ideas and being able to talk to people through online. And that's where that satisfaction comes in, where because I'm still at the point with the brick and mortar practice where I'm still doing a lot of the implementing and the unification, Obviously, as a business owner, you're still forced to communicate and with the offline relationships that you have to build, and you're still forced to imagine and think about what you're going to create and how you're going to make the experience better for your clients. But I was doing a lot more of the implementation still because it's a new business. We've been open for about 10 months now, right? Yeah. So now what I've noticed is that now that I have been seeing less patients, I've had more time to think and more time to be on my own and create. My satisfaction level has gone up in that realm. And that's ultimately what I want, is to be at those top 2 levels. I don't want to be the person doing the thing. I want to be the person who is, telling people what to do.
Imagination.
Strategies, ideas, and really thinking about, okay, what's next? And that's where I get my satisfaction from. So it was really interesting just having that self-awareness and this, something I didn't even think about before doing this. This was a pretty exercise for myself. And that's where that's how I feel about that at this point is I just had more time now to do those things.
And I would imagine too that like the more you succeed with your online business, the more it would fuel your in-person practice. Yeah. Just because I would assume, the brand recognition and things like that too, where, you might be able to charge a higher rate than a normal physical therapist just because you have that awareness.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So even though it is kind of like a separate business, they kind of feed into each other because one feeds the knowledge to teach the online, but then the online gives you the brand awareness. So then, fuel in your physical practice with more clients, I would imagine.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely.
Awesome. So there you go. So you created that. That's a pretty cool way of like creating a nice little pipeline for yourself by providing more value to the marketplace. Like, hey, I have a physical business, but I took it online and now I'm providing more value and that's feeding my physical business. So it's kind of like a nice little revolving door.
Yeah.
Very sweet. Very cool. All right, man. So, I know you said you've been doing the online thing for 10 months, but tell us where you are right now, 10 months into the online thing. Like what is the business? Is it a Facebook group? Is it an email list? Is it a website? What is that? And, what are the members truly getting out of it?
Yeah, great question. So with the online business, I do have online products and services for physical therapy clients. But like I was saying, because of the path that I took pretty quickly in my career, I did start helping healthcare professionals. And the way I got started with that is with affiliate marketing, where I was actually so passionate about what I had learned that I started, telling more people about it, telling other healthcare professionals who were just as frustrated as I was with what was going on, that they jumped on as well. And I did really well that way through affiliate marketing. Yeah. So that was basically how I was doing most of my online business at first, really integrating myself into that model and building an audience of, at that time, physical therapists. Now it's more healthcare professionals as a whole. Now the business that I actually just started this business 4 weeks ago, which what I
let's add another one on top. Why not?
But it's still helping healthcare professionals. So I'm still doing the affiliate marketing because that's a great way to bring income where it actually doesn't tie me too much to it. I do coaching through that program. And just take a little bit of my time, but for the most part, the product is created. It's an incredible product. I believe in it so much that I do get on sales calls and get people to jump into that program. Nice. Still to this day, the business I'm starting now is an actual life coaching business where I teach other healthcare professionals how to implement life coaching into their daily practice with their patients so they can actually get better results. So I started learning this practice about a year ago. And I started implementing it into my daily practice with patients. And I noticed that there are, certain factors in people's lives that if we don't take care of those other things or at least talk about them, it'll stop them from actually attending physical therapy because life's crazy. They got busy lives, so many other things going on that if we don't at least address them and talk about them and talk about how we're going to navigate those things, so they can be consistent with their therapy, they won't get the results that they want. So I started doing that about a year ago. And then I realized, man, this is something that could be beneficial for healthcare professionals to learn the skill. And to be honest, we're talking to people all day. And there's a few minor tweaks that you would make in the way that you communicate that would change the game for people.
Yeah.
And on the other side, hey, this is something that you can actually turn into a side hustle or a full-on business if you wanted to, right? Which is obviously what I have done over the past year and a half. So it's using what I've done and showing people how I've done it through different methods. And now with this business, I actually started my first beta program 3 weeks ago now. Have 33 people in it, and it's going great. So this is something.
Are you going to be taking affiliates up for your program too?
At some point, but I want to make sure that people are getting results from it before I start asking that of people. So the second launch is coming up in 2 weeks, and essentially what's going to happen is that my intention was to make this an in-person workshop seminar that I was going to host in July, but now since we don't know what's going on, right? Yeah. We don't know what's going on. I'm going to delay that and just do a second launch of this program. But basically at some point they might, and my vision is that we have seminars all over the country with people who have gone through this program and actually have gotten results and have gotten clients to work with at some point, who also want to teach the skills that I'm teaching and just do this nationwide. And the cool thing about being in the healthcare field is that we have these things called CEUs that we need, right? So what I'm currently working on is actually getting this program approved for CEUs as a hook to get people to come.
And CEU is continuing education.
Continuing education unit. So we all need in physical therapy specifically in Florida, we need 22 CEUs every 2 years, right? Okay. So I'm currently working on getting this program approved for that to get more people to buy into actually coming to the in-person seminars and workshops and getting their mind blown. So,
and this is the program that emphasizes the life coaching with
exactly. So that's the newest online business. It'll be turned into in-person.
It's pretty cool that you figured out that like the life coaching could be a better tool to facilitate the therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the kind of gist that I'm getting from it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's a great tool to facilitate therapy and get patients better results. And the cool thing, at least the way that I think about it, and the way I'm putting the message out there to healthcare professionals is that we're already experienced in it. We're already experienced in getting people results when it comes to their health, specifically in my mind, rehab professionals, because that's who I work with the most. And it should be an easy skill to transition to. So a big portion of it is actually, okay, now that we have the skill, how do we actually get clients for this? And that's what I'm also helping them with is learning the skill, but also how to attract your first client and then, several after that.
So pretty much if you're a if you're a healthcare provider, you should probably reach out to Javi to figure out how you can pivot in this online work. Because I'm pretty sure that the program, I'm assuming, of course, has a strong online component to it. Is it all online? Like that, as far as like, let's say I sign up for it and I want to provide it for my business. Can I do that online with my clients, or do I have to do that in person?
So right now, this life coaching business is teaching healthcare professionals online. The way that I teach it is that, hey, you can do. Cool thing about coaching is you can do it online or you can do it in person. So you have both options. Here, under the big umbrella term of life coaching, there's a thing called health coaching. And funny enough, when it comes to life coaching in general, very little laws, no laws, no regulations, no degrees that you need. Technically, you don't even need certifications, which is interesting. That's another topic for another day. But we have more restrictions as healthcare professionals with licenses than a health coach would have. But health coaching is definitely something you do virtually, like we're doing right now. So,
nice. All right, Javi. Well, tell the people where they can find you. What's your website? What's your social media? Tell them all the good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Javier Carlin. So Dr. Javier Carlin. You can friend request me on Facebook, Javier A. Carlin. If you want to chat more, shoot me a text message, 305-323-0427.
Hey.
Email me at javier@ptcareercoach.com. And I think that's it.
You have a Facebook group too?
Oh, yes, I do have a Facebook group. It's called Life Coaching Academy for Healthcare Professionals. So
Boom.
you can find us there.
Awesome. Javi, thank you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone listening. And this has been another awesome episode of Burning the Boats with Javier Carlin. Thank you, everyone.